Hello and welcome to this very special episode of Star Wars Generations podcast. Friends, the long wait is over. Maul, Shadow Lord episodes 1 and 2 are here, and me and Aaron are here to talk about it. Aaron, what'd you think?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Just whoa. That was all so cool. It was so fun to watch. Lots of cool fight scenes, lots of fun new characters. Really, it's shaping up to be a really fun storyline. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, this is like there's so much hype, and you're always worried that it's not going to live up to the hype. And there were some parts
Yeah.
that were not my favorite, but like overall, Sam Witwer is just such an incredible voice actor, and he carries it so well. And with something like this, it's a hard story to tell because this is coming in the middle of Maul's story, and we know
Mhm.
that we know that he's going to do a lot in later points in Rebels, and I'm always worried with something like this where the villain is the focus, that they're going to try and make it a redemption story, that we're going to try to make it a like, oh, look at all the no, they are making it a he is still a horrible, terrible person, and
He
he's
still
got some
sucks.
grievances, and we support uh Doth, uh, Dothraki. No, that's Game of Thrones. What's the place he's from?
Dathomir.
Dathomir. Thank you. And
The Zabraks.
Zabraks. And we support Zabrak rights and we support Zabrak wrongs. And did you get chills when he first appeared and that music from Phantom Menace started playing?
Yo, that was crazy.
That was so well done. It was such a good mic drop.
It was beautiful.
And I don't like. Has that just become Maul's theme? I don't remember that music playing when he's shown up in Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff like that.
I don't think I remember it during Clone Wars at all. I don't
Okay.
know about Rebels.
Yeah. Maybe we'll check in. I'm sure our listeners will let us know what if we were wrong, but we'll go from there. So where do you want to start? What do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about our new police character. I didn't catch his name, but this captain guy.
Lawson.
Yeah.
Captain Lawson, which for the guy who has a son and is an officer of the law is a little on the nose. But this felt so much more real world than anything we've had. Like, did you catch that he's separated from his wife? He's raising his teenage son. It was just like, am I watching like a 90s cop movie? This is so weird.
No, literally, I was watching it and I was like, ooh, trouble at home. He's an absent father.
Right?
Yikes.
Well, is he an absent father? I mean, he's an absent father, but I think it felt like he's more absent than his mother.
More absent or less, do you mean?
Less. Yeah, it felt like he sort of is, like he has main custody, but the guy wants to visit his mom because the kid wants to visit his mom.
That's what it seems like, is that I'm curious to see how the story shapes up. But yeah, it appears that he has the main custody.
Yep.
Or even that if the custody is split in some way, that the wife lives off planet and that's too much for the son to do on his own.
Right.
Which is fair because he seems to be, somewhere between 14 and 17.
Right. And in the middle of having this conversation with his son, he gets called away by Two Boots. How do we like Two Boots, the new droid?
Two Boots is a cutie patootie.
Mm-hmm.
Two Boots is fun. Yeah. I'm excited to see that character because he's just like, he's shaping up to be our like, what's it called? Like our like true moral good or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where he's just like, well, the rules say call ISB, so we should call ISB in the Empire.
Right.
And Lawson's like, you don't understand what that will do to the politics in our world. We need to not call the Empire.
Yeah, I think maybe not moral good. I think you mean lawful good. Like he's the rule follower. He's the we should do it by the book. And it's interesting that after Andor, we're once again getting a story of local law enforcement trying to figure out can they deal with this or not. And I feel like, Lawson, I think, is clearly going to be someone who's kind of critical of the Empire because he's very hesitant right now to get the Empire involved.
Yeah.
I also like that we get so much of the kind of local crime situation happening here. Again, this feels like a gangland movie. It feels like a cop movie. We have these two different rival factions who Maul does a pretty good job of getting them to fight against each other and getting them to take each other down. And, because his goal at this point is just to cause as much havoc and revenge on this former Shadow Collective he had.
Yeah, his goal seems to be like revenge and also just starting shit.
Yeah.
Like revenge, but also I guess like maintaining as much anonymity as possible. Because he did a lot of work to try and set it up to look like these two crime bosses, Demas and Vario, were just fighting
Right.
because they're ops, not because Maul started some shit and tried to pin it on Vario.
Yeah. Like, I think we're getting this really interesting story with him of he is, as you said, he wants revenge. And I think he does want, for those, by the way, who don't know what the Shadow Collective is, we talk a lot about that in our last episode, the Primer episode. Definitely check that out. But just a very quick thing, towards the end of the Clone Wars, he had brought together all of these different criminal syndicates, the Pikes, Death Watch, Crimson Dawn, the Mandalorian group called Death Watch, a number of others to take over Mandalore. The plans were foiled; it was overthrown, and as he sees it, basically all those groups were like, "Well, this is a sinking ship, and we're going to do what people do, rats do, and get off." As he sees it, though, they all abandoned him. This man has a persecution complex, is a big part of who Maul is right now. And so when he talks about the Shadow Collective, and so I feel like he's got these three goals that are all kind of warring with each other. He wants revenge. He wants to have the Shadow Collective back in some way. He wants to be running the criminal enterprises again. And as they say in Dark Knight, some people just like to watch the world burn.
Yeah. That seems to be very on the nose for him, especially with the intro that we get, where it's just like brush strokes painting out the word Maul and just fire, which is very cool.
Right. So let's talk quickly about, and I apologize, this is going to be a very short episode, and I'm also going to let Aaron talk for a little while because my parents have scheduled an unscheduled visit. They're going to be here in just 2 minutes. But let's talk about what's happening with him and the Jedi prodigy, the whoever this is, who he's trying to get to be a disciple of his. What do you think is going on in that story?
Well, it seems clear to me that she was, living on the streets with her, former Jedi master. We see the Jedi master has a chance to choose between trying to rescue his apprentice from Maul and the Shadow Collective, or try to save a broken bridge full of innocent people. And the master chooses the bridge, which I feel like will probably come back, and Maul will probably use that.
Along with the fact that when they were starving, he wanted her to beg. She stole a couple of fruit, and she got arrested. And his response was, "Well, I'm sure that the criminal justice system will work it out on its own." He took no effort to try to save her, and then even when he didn't go down to try to get her out of processing or bail her out or whatever. He just went back to the streets.
Yeah, because his mindset is like, the less trouble we cause, the better we are. So just go in there, don't give them any identification. They'll keep you for a night, and eventually they'll turn you back out. And she seems pretty unsatisfied with that plan, which I would be too if I were a teenager who was starving and just wanted like a freaking apple, and then I'm being arrested. That would suck.
Well, and then here's the thing about Maul, and he's clearly trying to play on that. He's trying to, get at the Jedi indoctrination. He says things like, "You've been indoctrinated since you were a child. Now you must adapt." He says, "You're operating under the premise that I'm the villain here, but things are not as simple as good and evil." But I watch this and I compare it to the Emperor seducing first Anakin and then Luke, or the Acolyte, the Stranger, what they do. Or some of the other stories we've seen in books. So often the idea there is that the Sith Master is going to be, they're going to like make the apprentice come to them. They're going to make the apprentice want them. This is now the third time. It's the set. We've watched Maul try to recruit Ahsoka. We'll later watch Maul try to recruit Ezra.
Yeah.
He's coming off kind of desperate. Like just in that, like he's trying hard to make her come to him instead of like holding back and letting her go through the torture and stuff, and then eventually deciding to come to him. What do you think is going on there?
I mean, I think part of it, like, he's really trying to expedite a timeline. Like, he really needs another Force user at this point. And I think maybe to an extent, he's like, well, the other shit wasn't working, so let me try to be a little more proactive. and really try and like play some mind games rather than just kind of step back and let the dark side do its work.
Right.
And I really liked the way he was like, well, Jedi, you can leave anytime you want. And she's like, what the fuck? No, I can't. You have me locked up. And he's like, bitch, use the Force.
Yeah. Yeah, that I love that it keeps repeating, "Just leave."
Yeah,
And
leave.
of course, at the end of the second episode, it seems like she finally starts doing that.
She finally breaks out of her little prison cell. We'll see where she goes from there.
Right. But I think it's also a sign of how, he has never part of the idea of the whole way the Sith rule of 2 works is that you start recruiting apprentices once you've overthrown your own master. You've become the master. And his recruitment was not like a lot of the others. He was found as a baby and raised. He was not recruited as an adult the way
Yeah.
often they are. And I think there's something interesting here that he kind of doesn't know how to do this, And that's why he probably doesn't have success with Ahsoka, doesn't have success with Ezra, and I think he's gonna have more success with her from what we know about the story, but, we'll see, because I think part of what this is kind of showing is that, the whole kind of thing, like, it's hard to be dating when you're needy?
Yeah.
He really needs this. He is just so
Yeah.
he doesn't have Savage Opress anymore, he doesn't have his master anymore. He needs a partner, he needs an apprentice or a master or something, and, we'll see how it goes this time.
Yeah. TBD. I'm very excited to see what happens.
Speaking of not having overthrown your masters yet, my parents are here, so I'm gonna have to run quick. But, Erin,
Okay.
keep on talking, and I'll come back and make some comments at the end.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome.
I'm gonna run to the restroom and then I'll keep going. All right, y'all, it's just me. So I'm going to keep talking about this episode. One of the things I wrote down from episode 1 was Spybot. I think he's so fun. Or she, or they, it. I don't really know what pronouns a being like that would use. But they just seem to have this like attitude that is a love of destruction. And I really love that. I love a good assassin droid or a spy droid, something like that. We got a lot of cool assassin droids that were bounty hunters throughout the Clone Wars, which everyone knows that is my favorite, Clone Wars. So yeah, I'm really excited for this feeling. I mean, obviously the Shadow Collective seems to be operating at a level that is higher than a typical bounty hunter. That is Maul's goal. He's not really trying to have a bounty hunter group. He's trying to have a underworld empire. So I really like Spybot. I love how what's the word? How diverse Spybot's abilities really are. There seems to be like a built-in gun. It can do disguising. It obviously does a lot of spying. It's really good at computer hacking. And we got a scene in, I think that was episode 1, if not the start of episode 2, where Two Boots and Spybot are like warring it out on the computer system, just trying to like see who's going to be able to control the police station. And eventually Two Boots wins and Spybot's just like throws a fit and is like, no, 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 no. It smashes everything up. And I'm like, girl, that's so real. So I'm excited to see that being morph into more of a character and see where that goes. I'm also very intrigued by our female Mandalorian. I need to do some research. Haven't done that yet. I've been very busy. But I don't know if she is one of the Mandalorians from season 7 of the Clone Wars or if this is a new character. That's something I will look into because I'm quite curious. One thing I found interesting from episode 1 at the very end is that when Maul, appears and he finds who we are assuming is Talon or Talon, he finds this young Jedi in the prison cell and opens it to, speak with her because he's been looking for an apprentice. He feels, the power of the Force. And he's like, oh, and it's a child. I got this. I can manipulate this. I think that's what's happening in Maul's head. But I found it very interesting that she knew who he was. When the door opened, the last word of the first episode is she went, Maul. And I thought that was interesting for how anonymous he was at the end of the Clone Wars. It seemed like really the Jedi Council specifically knew about him. Even the conflict on Mandalore, the actual Jedi Council, the actual, Republic itself did not participate in that conflict. So I found it very interesting that she was familiar with him when the character has been fairly mysterious. It didn't seem clear to me that everyone, all the Jedi would know who Maul is. So I'm curious to see how that pans out. If it's like she found this during research, she and her master maybe somehow have a connection to the Mandalore conflict or to something else that Maul did during his time in the Clone Wars, because it didn't seem like common sense to me of like, oh, all the Jedi know who Maul is. That seems not true to me. So I'm curious to see if she had some sort of further experience or insight leading her to recognize Maul so quickly. And let me consult my notes. One thing that became very clear in the second episode is that Maul is a broken record. He is still, at the end of the day, after Darth Sidious. He wants, his revenge on everyone who left the Shadow Collective and abandoned him, including Marg Krim, who is the leader of the Pike Syndicate. Maul decides to spare Vario's life and take him as prisoner because he, you know, claims that he can get them to mark Krim. And apparently Maul hates Krim a little more than he hates Vario right now. So that's taken priority. So I'm very excited to see some sort of a raid on the Pikes or something like that. We already saw them, you know, take over a Pike shipment to stir up some no goods. Sorry guys, my brain processing is on a low. I overslept. And this is the first thing I'm doing today. Now, y'all know me. I love quotes. So I'm going to come back to my final note. I'm going to come back to one of the lines that Matthew brought up briefly earlier in this episode where, you know, Talon is saying, like, Maul, I would never join you, you know, like, I still believe in the Jedi principles, something along those lines. And he says to her, you're operating under the I'm starting again. You're operating under the premise that I am somehow the villain here, but it is not as simple as good and evil. And he proceeds to talk about how the world has changed. You know, the Jedi have fallen. Clearly what they were doing was not working 100%. The Republic has fallen. Things are changing. Times are changing. And he keeps telling her, you need to adapt. You need to grow. You need to change. The ways that you were, you know, indoctrinated or taught as a child, that ain't gonna work no more. And I need you to see this, boo-boo, is basically his thought process, except, you know, he obviously wants to. He literally says, and I think she could hear him when he said this, but he says to the Mandalorian that works with him, you know, I will mold her into something so powerful that will help us, you know, destroy my enemies. And so obviously he does not have good intentions. But I think this character is maybe a little idealistic, as anyone is who just follows the Jedi Code blindly, especially after Order 66. And I think that, as we mentioned, you know, early in the first episode, we see her try to steal something after her master tells her not to. But she, you know, specifically told her master, like, you need to eat. So I take it as it wasn't just that she was stealing for her, but also, you know, for her master and their survival, really. And so clearly she's willing to bend the Jedi rules to survive. She's done some sort of adapting. And I think Maul kind of recognizes that. He's like, okay, well, if you're a Jedi, why are you in prison? Like, you clearly did something wrong to an extent. So I think he maybe grasped onto that as like something within this person's core is already shaken if they ended up here. And, you know, he can probably sense that through the Force, that she has some uncertainty in her, which is exactly what he would be looking for. So I'm very curious to see, you know, if she turns, if this character is Darth Talon, if this character is somebody else, if maybe she will join and have a redemption arc at the end of the series. But I'm very curious to see where this is going. The character is shaping up to be quite interesting to me. So I'm really excited for this show. On that note, I have got to get going. So yeah, thanks for being here, y'all. Thanks for listening to the Star Wars Generations podcast. Stay classy, Dathomir. I think we've already used that. You're operating under the premise that I am somehow the villain here. But it is not as simple as good and evil. Guys, just go watch the episode yourselves. I can't do a good Sam Witwer. Anyways, bye.